My guest today says that the collision industry is having an awakening. Are you part of that awakening? He helps shops combat the concept that we are victims to the insurance companies. And the shops that he coaches and works with across the country are seeing incredible results. So I wanted him to come on here and talk to you about some of the things that he shares with his clients. So stay tuned and hear from the one, the only Barrett Smith.
Welcome to Body Bangin', your podcast for all things body. Auto body, that is. And now, introducing Body Bangin's host, Mickey Woods of Mickey Woods Marketing. Mickey is a former auto collision center owner and is now a marketing and business development expert to shops across the globe.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Body Bangin' podcast. I am here with somebody that you may already know. And if you don't know, you're going to want to know because he's bringing some really great information to the table. Hi, Barrett. This is Barrett Smith. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Barrett.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. And lately, you might have seen Barrett's columns. He's been writing for BodyShop Business like I have, but he's been doing it far longer. And lately, some of his articles have just been blockbusters. They're blowing up the internet. So, and Barrett and I have now become good friends. So I thought, we need to have Barrett on the podcast. So let me just give you a little bit of background on Barrett, and then we're going to just dive right in. Barrett actually grew up in the industry. His dad owned shops in Alaska and Washington State. He then was in the Air Force. After the Air Force, he owned his own shop. He worked for Progressive Insurance. He's worked for dealer-owned body shops. So he's really run the gamut of knowing all different sides of this industry, which give him a really full picture of where the industry's at. Right, Barrett?
Yeah, been in the industry far too long.
Since diapers? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I teased, I think my dad said I teased on a Bondo spreader. So there's Bondo in the blood.
That's right. I love it. Well, one thing that Barrett's been talking about recently that he works with shops on a daily basis about is insurance. And I personally, when I'm doing marketing and I have calls with body shops across the world now, and almost every single time I do a call where they want to grow their shop or talking about different things they can do to grow their business, the topic of insurance comes up. Mickey, how do I get these insurance companies to pay? How do I become more efficient? Because the insurance companies are just bogging down my time. They're killing my cycle time. They're killing my administrative staff with hours and everything else. And Barrett's talked a little bit about that in his articles that he's done. We now have a group that meets once a month, the Collision Cocktail Hour, that everybody's welcome to come to. And that's been a hot topic, right, Barrett?
Yeah. Are you talking about the insurance or the influence or the Collision Cocktail Hour?
They both have become very popular. Yes.
It's great. And it's open to everybody, regardless. Yeah. And, as long as they're in the collision repair industry, and they're welcome to attend.
Yeah, we have fun with it. It's the third Wednesday of every month that we're doing them. I'll put a link down in the description notes if you guys want to join. It's welcome, like he said, to everybody. And our number, it's only our third, I think, meeting.
Yeah, still new and exciting and fresh.
Yeah. But it's growing.
Lots of topics to discuss, no doubt.
Yeah. So, Barrett, on to this insurance thing, because it is really what feels like we've got a lot of pain points in the industry, but this really feels like the biggest pain point that I'm hearing across the board. Like back-ordered parts, yeah. That was a big deal. It was a problem. Everybody was talking about it. And now the insurance thing has just become so burdensome for people.
I found there is a better way to conduct business. And the process is totally backwards from what's being done by most shops. So I was blessed enough to be able to put together a program. It took me about 5 years. And I'm not talking about a computer program. I'm talking about a process.
Right.
that I now share with shops all over the country, but they're not just the average body shop. They're unique. I mean, you just did an interview with Walt Silman.
Yep.
He's a brand new client of mine, and he's loving life. Clay Hoberek, you know Clay because he's on with us on the Collision Cocktail Hour.
Yes.
Clay is a superstar. He has gone from, at first I couldn't even coach him. I couldn't take him as a client because he didn't have the equipment to properly repair a car. So I put him off it took about 2 years. And then one day he called me and says, I got it all. Need you in here. So
yeah,
we've had a good relationship now, I think about 4 or 5 years. And he is rocking it. I mean, he owns Wichita and as far as the collision repair goes there.
Yeah, I've talked to actually several of your shops. I don't know that you're aware of this, but I've talked with several people now that have worked with you.
You've been doing research on me?
Yeah.
Or what?
The truth is out.
Yeah.
But then they all say, well, you know Barrett. So here we don't write an estimate, rewrite an invoice. We work with Barrett. So we don't even start on the vehicle until is done. And it's interesting because it is so different than what 90-something% of shops are doing. But yet the shops that you're working with are having incredible success. Their profit margins are great. Their efficiency is wonderful. And again, that's a big reason why I wanted you to come on and talk, because just the thought of we don't have to do what we've been doing just because we've always done it that way, right?
They're doing the wrong thing, and they continue to do, there's an old saying, as long as you do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always got.
Right. That's right. Exactly. And these people are having such incredible success. And like you spoke on earlier in the conversation, now is the time. And things that you used to fight for are now the norm. So it's like, and sometimes we feel like we're fighting just for the sake of fighting and we're not getting anywhere, or we're pushing back, but yet nothing's going to change. We're just stuck with this. We kind of get in the ho-hums and the frustration. But we can see if we do look back, kind of as you were sharing with us, things have shifted. Things have changed, and some of those for the better, which gives us hope if we do differently that we can start changing things for the future.
We're in a perfect time in the collision repair industry for positive change.
Totally.
One of the biggest things is this new ADAS, this new technology, the safety aspects, the things that just have to be done right.
Right.
And more importantly is the OEM procedures.
That's it.
Being laid out there for everybody to follow.
Right.
Which instills a tremendous amount of accountability and liability. Right?
Yeah.
And, I don't encourage my shops to fight at all. We've taken the fight out of the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the if I could put it in a nutshell, is knowing who you work for.
Right.
Okay? The insurance company is like Clay likes to call it. It's like a bank. It's a financial institution.
Mm-hmm.
You pour money into it, and then when the day comes where you need it, they're supposed to give you some money back.
Right.
And of course, insurance companies. I have a lot of insurance. You have a lot of insurance. Everybody needs insurance. I mean, all it is a safeguard in case you ever get in the situation where you need it. So you're gambling. You're gambling and you need it. The insurance company's gambling. You never need it. The problem here is that when the insurance company loses the bet, they try to hedge on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they try to short pay. Now, you had mentioned about we're getting paid now. Yeah, you're right. Out of the gate, they're writing for R&I door handles, R&I belt moldings, all the things that R&I vapor barrier inside the door. All the things that they said I was absolutely bazonkers for listing. Mm-hmm. Those are common day things that are given freely on the initial underpayment by the insurance company.
Right.
What's not being paid for is proper allowance for pre-scan, post-scan, those kind of things. I mean, some carriers are saying, no, we're not going to pay for that because, it may be recommended, but it's not mandated.
Right.
Well, that's ludicrous, And you have to understand just how ludicrous that is for anybody to accept that and accept their liability for not doing a proper repair or not doing proper calibrations or anything of that nature. That's ridiculous. And they're doing their customers and their community members a disservice.
Yeah.
Okay. So our philosophy is doing the right thing in the right way for the right reasons. Okay. And basically what that means is serve your consumer, and if the insurance company balks, okay. It's sort of like, to simplify it, it's like being in a restaurant and saying, okay, you want 2 eggs. How would you like those cooked? And then the customer lets you know what they want. And then hopefully you can service them and earn their business and have them back. But we need to do it quickly so I can turn this table, because that's how I make my business. That's how I make a profit. So when you have a customer there or you have a third party step in and say, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure they're going to get 2 eggs. Okay, well, let me know when you figure this out. But in the interim, I need this table. Right. So in a body shop setting, how do we make money? We make money by investing our money into parts, labor, and materials, and getting the car over the curb and getting paid. Yeah. Our payday is when the job is done, generally. Right. So how do we do that? How do we expedite that? Because that's the more we turn, the more tables that turns, the more money that restaurant makes. Right. So the more cars we get over the curb safely, and properly repaired, the more money we're going to make, because we can bring new cars, new wrecks into those spots and generate an income. So one of the tactics that insurance companies love to do is put the brakes on the job and stall it. Right. Because shops don't know how to react to that. They're like, well, I'm trying to keep the customer happy and I want to make the insurance company happy. What am I going to do here? Well, what you're probably going to end up doing is a whole lot of stuff for free or a whole lot of stuff for an underpayment. Right. Or, and as I say, there's a lot of honest and ethical shop owners out there today who are doing dishonest and unethical things in the name of survival. And my heart hurts for them. But again, there's no good reason to do the wrong thing. So what they're doing is they're torn between doing the right thing, doing a free thing, or not doing something, or doing it poorly in order to pay the light bill. Right. So if my guys, my customers, my clients, my coaching clients don't deal with that, and what I tell them early on in our relationship is, you're going to find out that this process is so easy, you're going to wonder why you ever needed me. And it's true. Clay just told me that a year ago. He says, I woke up this morning and wonder why I even ever needed you. But he wants to stay with me. So he's renewed since then. So it works. The system works if you work the system, like everything else. But the bottom line here is, and this is going to be hard for your listeners, watchers to understand, is you don't give the insurance company all the credibility and attention that they think they deserve. You provide that attention and service to your true customer, the vehicle owner. Right. The community member who, my dad, I remember him working, and I'd say, Dad, why do you try to make everything so perfect? And of course, we're a small town. He says, if we're ever at the movies or at the store and I see one of my customers, I don't want to have to feel like I got to dodge him. Yeah. I want to look him straight in the eye, stick my hand out and say, hey, how are you and your car doing? Knowing that I did my very best. And that kind of always stuck with me. And that's kind of the way I've always conducted business. It's the way I treat my clients, my shop clients. It's the way I treat consumers, give them the very best that I have to offer. And I encourage my shop clients to do the same. Yeah. Don't give the insurance company any more credibility or any more authority over their business than they're entitled to. As a matter of fact, what I encourage shops to do is treat visiting claims people as they would a parts delivery guy, a record service person, a customer, or a vendor, because they're all potential clients. But that adjuster doesn't own your shop. He doesn't own you. Right. He has a job to do, and we all can appreciate and respect that. Right. If he does it right, and if he does it effectively, he does it morally correct. But for them to come in and try to run your business, that's no bueno, as they say.
I'm going to interrupt this podcast for just one quick second, because a lot of people wonder, Mickey, what is it that you even do besides host a podcast? Well, I do marketing, and really the biggest thing that I do is help you drive more traffic to your business. And not even just more traffic, but consistent traffic to your business. As a former shop owner, I know how important that is. So if that's something you're interested in, or you just want to talk about marketing or developing your business in general, feel free to reach out. You can visit collisioncentermarketing.com. There's a calendar on there, and you can just book a time that works for you, and we'll set up a phone call. Or you can email or call me, and my notes are down in the description of this episode. But I hope to hear from you. I'd love to help you build your business. But in the meantime, you better get back to this podcast because it's really good. Well, I remember in one of our Collision Cocktail Hour meetings, you had suggested, and I think you have your shops do it, where they actually schedule the insurance adjusters to come out rather than, the adjuster's here, drop everything, and off we go. If the adjuster is going to run us around by our nose for the next hour and a half, which I thought was really interesting.
That was from experience too. And I'm not picking on Allstate, but there was an Allstate appraiser who used to come in, and he was just rude. He was just obnoxious. And I was in my office. I was in our waiting room or our reception area, and we had kind of a portico that went between our office area and the mechanical building next door. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this red. I think it was a Taurus. This red Taurus goes shoo right by my office window. And I'm like, and I asked my manager, I said, "Who's that?" He goes, "I think that's Tom Case." And I don't mind mentioning his name. The guy's a knothead. But anyway, so I told my customer, excuse me for a minute. And I went out and I grabbed Tom up, not physically, but I just went to him. I said, "Tom, what are you doing?" He said, "I came here to see this car. I got this claim." I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. If I pulled up to Allstate up in front, jumped out, went right past your receptionist, and went back and sat at your desk, what do you think would happen to me?" He laughed. He said, "Man, security to have you so fast." I said, "Exactly. That's why I wouldn't do it. But I surely don't expect you to conduct yourself any differently at my company than I would at yours." And he looked at me, and it resonated. Obviously, it made sense. So that was one of the things that made me make attention. So I started, I use sign-ins. You're going to have to make an appointment. You're going to have to sign in when you come in. You're going to have to sign out when you left. So I know that when they come in and look at a $10,000 hit, they were only there 3 minutes. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I can convey that to my client and say, well, their estimate is $4,000 less than ours, but he was only here 3 minutes. What can you expect?
Right.
So all of those kind of things. And my intent wasn't to throw them under the bus unless they deserved it. My intent was to expose their bad behavior so the customer could understand it. And that the customer then could be educated and edified to where they could make a decision that was best for them and their business, or them and their family.
Right.
And our big push was, their economic well-being and their safety. Yeah. The economic well-being is having a properly restored vehicle so that it doesn't lose a lot of value.
Totally.
So, when a car is damaged, it loses its value, but as you rebuild it, you're rebuilding the value. You can never get it back to where it was.
Right.
Simply because you can't unring the bell, right? The car has a history, but you can get it as close as you can. And that's what we, as in the collision repair industry, that's what we owe. We owe our very best efforts to properly restore the vehicle to its pre-loss condition to the best of reasonable human ability. These people that advertise, we can restore your car to pre-loss condition. No, you can't.
Right.
You can't. I had a Rolls Royce the other day, 2018 Ghost Black Badge Edition, that all they had to do was replace the grill.
Yeah.
And it lost $14,000 of its value just because it had a history of an accident.
Wow.
It wasn't a bad one. It was just a grill. But because it has that history, anybody that has the kind of funds to buy a car like that, and it's going to turn them off.
Right. So, interesting.
Anyway.
Well, one of the things that Walt had shared with us that I think really resonated with people, and I actually got calls about it, was the amount of communication that happens between the shop owner and the customer or the guest versus the insurance, really. And then we're keeping the customer out of it. This is like a big deviation from the norm.
Well, let's go back. Originally when claims adjusters, their role wasn't what it is today. Their role was to, one, inspect the vehicle to make sure it was the covered vehicle, or if it was damaged by a covered vehicle, inspect the vehicle to make sure the damages being claimed are a result of the covered loss, to make sure that that the policy was in effect at the time. Those are the kind of like the duties that the adjuster had, to avoid fraud. Right. But then somehow they got into negotiating the repair, and we opened that door wide up and let them in there, but what you don't see adjusters negotiating with surgeons on how to perform surgery. They might say, hey, this isn't covered, or this medication's not covered, but here's an alternative, alternative meds, like alternative parts.
Right.
But the original goal or the duties of the adjuster was to make sure that all the factors were in place to pay the claim. But we've allowed them to step into take our wallets out and peel off a few $100 here and there. And like I tell my clients, I says, you can give up $50. You can give up $75. I said, in fact, you can give it all away. It's yours. You just can't do it for very long.
Right.
But that fact is that if a shop is doing a 10% net, they're really running their business right and generating 10% net. Giving up $50 is a $500 repair.
Yeah.
So you're doing a bumper job for free.
Right.
So why would you do that? Are you going to make nice? Are you going to make nice with the adjuster? Is he ever going to refer work to you? No, unless you're a DRP, and then you're giving a lot more than $50 generally on most repairs. So my shops, I'm not anti-DRP, but most of the times when they get into our processes, they don't. The DRP kind of like just goes by the wayside, because number one rule of the DRP is don't involve the customer, I think.
Right.
You and I will take care of it. Let them be gone. Where our rule is involve the customer. It's their car. It's their economic well-being. It's their safety that's involved. And by golly, if an insurance company doesn't want to pay for a pre-scan and the OEM procedures say you need to do a pre-scan, well, you're going to do that for free, or are you going to get paid for it? Are you going to get paid a little bit for it, or are you going to get paid right for it? So who do you work for? In most states, the customer is designated as the person who signs the repair order. So, that's another thing I work with my clients, is to know the laws in their state.
Yeah. I did want to bring that up, that Barrett has a company, Auto Damage Experts, and he does many different things. I know we're talking about how he does consulting with and coaching for his body shop clients, but you're also in court quite often too.
Yeah.
So Barrett knows
very well. That pays very well. Yeah, I'm engaged usually as an expert, just to clear the record. I'm not like getting sued or anything, but I don't encourage that for the collision repair industry. For obvious reasons, I don't encourage my clients to get involved in litigation at all. Yeah, and they generally don't have to, unless there's an abusive insurer out there who tries to beat him over the head with the legal club, which happens. And it's happening to a lot of shops, and not just my clients, but a lot of good quality shops, in an effort for the insurance company to stave off this change, this awakening, if you will. And see, that's what's happening with my clients. They have an awakening, and there's another proper, better, more efficient, more effective way to conduct business that's holistic. It's right. And it's actually consistent with most state laws. And as much as that, let's look at it from another way. If a body shop and an insurance company collude to do an improper and non-thorough repair, they're committing a crime in most states.
Right.
Okay? And who's watching out for the customer? That's the sad part, is a lot of times the customers don't have a clue what's happening to them.
That's right.
And here's something that's very simple. I tell my clients, if an insurance company wants to use aftermarket parts, all they have to do is provide to the shop testing standards that show that those parts were tested, crash tested, and that they met manufacturer specifications of fit, finish, and function. Well, guess what? Aftermarket parts companies don't crash test their parts.
Right.
How could they? And still sell their parts for 65% less than OEM parts.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out and buy a brand new Honda, build it and crash it and do that. 20, 30 times like the OEMs are compelled to do.
Right.
So I mean, it's a very simple fix there. Just show me this testing standards that say, and most state laws, many state laws and regulations have that. In Florida, there's one that says it's okay for shops and insurance companies to use aftermarket parts so long as those parts meet manufacturer specifications in fit, finish, and function. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like shops right now are expected to know so much, and it feels very overwhelming. As a former shop owner myself, and gosh, I own my shop like now we're looking like 13, 15 years ago. And it was overwhelming then. And I feel like it's gotten even so much more advanced since then.
Yes.
And talking with shop owners on a daily basis like you do, there's so many things to be taking into account. And it seems like, oh my gosh, when are we ever going to catch up? When can we take a breath?
You can't really. You have to keep on forging ahead, but you can't stay idle either. I remember back when unibodies came out, the 64.5 Mustangs and those cars, that's when most shops had a bulldozer, hydraulic bulldozer. They anchored the car to the floor and they made their pulls. Well, then all of a sudden unibodies come out and you had to do 3-dimensional measuring. That was a huge departure.
Yeah.
And there was a big fallout. A lot of guys just left the industry. I ain't going in. I'm not buying a $40,000 frame machine and a measuring system. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I saw the results of that because I found cars that had angle iron welded to the frame rails and stuff like that to try to keep them straight. And just horrific repairs,
Yeah.
Now we've kind of surpassed that aspect. Now we're into the electronics.
Yes.
The cameras, the lane departure, all of the cruise control, adaptive cruise control. And I've got a new car with that stuff on it, and it's neat.
Yeah.
It's different. It's unique and different, but it's neat.
Yeah.
And and then now pulling procedures.
Yeah.
That's you almost need to hire a whole other person. Now, I heard you talk about, I think you asked Walt, or you were talking with Mike Townley about doing $1 million a month in business.
Right.
And you asked Walt, I think, so, well, how would you handle doing $1 million a month in business? And he really kind of stumbled on that because that's a lot of money, right?
Right.
But the simple fact is you just have to hire more people. And he touched on that. But I think the average was 1 administrative for 3 productive personnel at one point in time. I would say now it's probably now 2 to 3 productive personnel, because if you're doing $1 million in business and the average RO is 3,500, I mean, how many ROs is that? And how many times they have to sit down and pull procedures for those repairs, right?
Right.
But you got to do it. And if you don't do it and something goes awry, it's not going to take a savvy attorney with somebody like me as an expert to find out what went wrong or where it went wrong. Right?
Well, yeah. And to kind of preface what Barrett's talking about, when I had Walt on and he was talking about some of the processes that he's learned through working with Barrett, and it was, investigating all of the procedures, and he got into communicating with the customer, and then while communicating with the insurance company, CCing the customer on all emails. So it's more time consuming than what a lot of shops are doing. So then now he's on a smaller scale. So my question to him was, well, what do you have to say to the shops out there doing $1 million a month? If you're doing $30,000 a month or even $300,000 a month versus a shop doing $1 million a month, how does that translate? And so Barrett's answer to that question is you need to hire more people. I think the process is we don't just dismiss them because we're doing so much more in production. We just need to ramp up our level of administration support.
Yeah, and not so much in black and white. Like my shops make a lot more money with fewer ROs.
True. Yeah.
Their gross profit is much greater.
True.
They're turning them over faster because, they're not allowing the insurance company to delay the process. If an insurance company wants to delay the process, the vehicle goes into storage.
Right.
And I really have to kind of preface all this when I'm saying not any shop can go out and do what I'm I'm touching on little tidbits here.
Right. We're not giving the full picture.
There's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of correspondence, sample correspondence that I teach, and so there's a lot of tools.
Yes.
And I tell people, like, my clients have to sign a confidentiality agreement, because if they were to share this with a shop down the street, but not do it effectively or have them provide the tools, it could get that shop in a lot of trouble.
Right.
With their customer, with the insurance company, and give ADE, my company, a bad name because I tried that crap and it doesn't work, Right. So we have to all be very careful. It's like giving a loaded gun to a child.
Yes.
Okay. So with that prefaces, I can say this, we don't allow the car to be delayed, because when you have a car, you have liabilities. Mm-hmm. Whether the car is being worked on or not, there's a liability factor. Mm-hmm. The hope is that you can maintain the repairs, keep them expedited, keep your liabilities in check by doing good repairs in a good environment with the right tools, and get the car done and getting paid with no hassles.
Right.
That might include having a fire spotter when a technician's welding on a quarter panel. Mm-hmm. Have another person standing there with a fire extinguisher to make sure he doesn't get the carpet caught on fire. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's a cost involved with that, because you got to pay that tech. So you have to charge for that service. Right. But when you sit down with a consumer and say, let's say that you have fire spotter on your estimate, and the insurance company says, no, we're not paying for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then you bring the customer and you say, here's the process. Here's what we're concerned about. Here's our remedy, but the insurance company doesn't want to pay for it. But what would you like us to do? Mm-hmm. How do you want your eggs?
Right. Well, as we wrap it up, is there any one thing that you feel like is on your heart that you want to just share with people on the call?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. There's a lot of honest and ethical people out there doing dishonest and unethical things in the name of survival. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to. Mm. There is other ways of conducting business, more effective and more profitable ways that allow you to hold your head up and be proud of what you do. This industry is full of a lot of prideful men and women, diverse and very aggressive oftentimes, and independent and all that kind of stuff. But we all need help from time to time.
Yeah.
And most of my clients, I said this earlier when we first started talking, most of my clients come to me at the last gasp of their business. I had one who came to me crying. He called me, he was crying because he just spent the last $20 of his son's college education savings. And I took him on, and he's doing well. He called me crying about 2 years ago. This is after about 3 years of having him as a client. He called me crying again because he just paid in full his son's college education.
Wow.
And he had another couple houses and some race cars. I mean, he was living large.
Right.
Very appreciative. And that obviously warmed my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said earlier, I now do some work with some of Barrett's clients. I talk with Barrett's clients, and I've not heard a single bad thing. I mean, they're all so appreciative for everything that you do, Barrett. And so I'm appreciative that somebody like you is out there and working with shop owners. I know, like I said, I can only speak from my personal experience. I know how hard it was for me to try to do the right thing and feeling very overwhelmed. And I see it every day when I talk with shop owners. So to know that there's people out there like you trying to support and lift up and empower versus just feeling hammered every single day.
Right.
I'm such a person of positivity and empowerment that from me to you, I appreciate you and all that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything you do, Mickey.
Thank you.
You're an asset to our industry.
Thank you. All Barrett's information is down in the description and the show notes. And if you did get a chance to listen to Walt's podcast recording, you can go back and listen to that one. He is one of Barrett's clients and gets a little bit more in depth with some of the things that he's doing in his shop that have been working really well for him to get paid on these insurance claims. So I invite you to check that out. And otherwise, love you all. Thank you for listening in, and we will see you next time.
Let me say this in closing real quick. Let me just say, if you enjoyed what you heard, you want to hear more, let Mickey know. She needs to know that you guys are watching her stuff and appreciating it.
Absolutely. Let me know. Share it. Thank you. See you later. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have some incredible topics and guests coming your way you will not want to miss. If you are watching on YouTube and don't want to miss the latest and greatest, you'll want to hit the bell after subscribing, so you will get a pop-up each time a video podcast goes live. To our devoted fans, would you mind paying it forward and sharing this little gem with someone else you think may benefit from it? Much love from all of us here at Body Bangin', all things auto body.